not against the golden rule. I totally agree with the golden rule. But the difference between morals that people understand through compassion and reflection is very different, and actually a higher level than morals received from the church.
I beg your pardon?
Society is falling apart. The whole civil society is falling apart. No one is responsible for anything.
People like you. What it is though, I mean, it is a fact, he's right, we are falling apart, our society is going down the toilet. And it's gone down the toilet after Christianity was consciously abandoned.
What makes you think it's going down the toilet?
Oh, well, the young people, a little girl in Liverpool killed by 4 youths, and we get stabbings aplenty. A 16-year-old Sikh boy stabbed in West London, I think, or yesterday. We're getting these kind of levels of violence which we didn't used to see in the 1950s. Now, I know there's an ethnic change in the composition of the population, which accounts for some of that, but we have seen, if you took the variables of ethnic population change, you can see a degradation in terms of the amount of violent crime there is. Now, I want to put a caveat on that, because it's old tradition where I come from, that Friday, Saturday nights, come out full of skin, haven't had a skinful, and there's scrapping. It goes way back to the 30s. It goes back to the 30s or more, beyond. But the use of weapons like this is quite not the norm. And I'd say that, and then again you look at like the huge numbers of teenage pregnancies. Now, I'm not saying teenage pregnancies didn't happen, because my grandmother, back in the early part of the 20th century, had a teenage pregnancy, and the child was brought up by her parents as their own, and that happens quite a bit. But we do seem to see, it's not just the abandonment of Christianity, I think it's the adoption of the welfare state. For all its benefits, everything that has some good about it has some negative effects too.
So what do you think in Ireland? Right? So you're obviously it's very particular selection, but do you think in Ireland, where the Catholic Church was dominant, as in Portugal and Spain, effectively a church dictatorship in Ireland, and to think that things are better in Ireland now than they were in the 30s is bad.
Well,
and also the violence in the home, the rape in marriage, the violence in the home, the moral and ethical things that it's just more hidden and less reported.
There's absolutely true. A lot of stuff is hidden in the past that now is revealed. But that's not though.
Not just paedophilia, it was violence. It was the brothers who were the Christian brothers. They were almost universally violent men to their children. They're just teachers.
Yeah, but there was an attitude. You see, there's a bit of anachronistic analysis here, because the attitude of adults towards children was quite different then than it is now, and it'd be better to apply the attitudes of secular people, adults, to children in those days, as when you're comparing them with the attitudes of the priests and nuns to children.
Some of the characteristics of Ireland is that Irish are very kind of friendly on the face of it, but quite talk about people behind their back. I think it's a big thing of dictatorships, that you have to have a public face and then you've got your private privacy. But one of the main things, and also alcoholism, and really one of the explanations of this kind of pattern within the Irish people is to do with the trauma that was effectively the potato famine, which actually was not a potato famine. All those potatoes were taken Ireland and sent to the UK. It was a starvation of people. And when you get a high percentage of people dying in a country, you get enormous trauma. And there's another aspiration for it. So the issue of a few people being stabbed now, even giving Ireland a kind of slightly newer history, I suppose, than the UK, is actually there's a whole load of other awful things that were happening. You say, oh, it's all gone to hell in a handcart. Actually, 100 years ago, there's workhouses, there's all of these other awful things that suppress people. But actually, moralistically, it was no better at all.
I think it's up you two. God bless you. I think that it's hard to weigh up these and compare them. But there are changes. Yes, but I wouldn't go back 100 years. I was just going back to the 1950s. Remember, now you can say all kinds of problems in the 1950s as well. But there have been degradations in our culture, in our lifetime. It's beyond doubt. It is not a good thing that there are loads of girls with babies and no fathers looking after them. To depend on the state is a perilous thing. You're basically chained to poverty for the rest of your life when the state is your provider. And when we look at the rise of sexually transmitted diseases, compared to, say, when I was growing up, today, that's a big change, which is not for the good.
So the welfare state and the pill.
What we've got to say about the welfare state is...
Which would you stop, the welfare state or the pill?
Well, you know, with us, we'd stop the pill, and the welfare state has got big issues about it because this is the point.
But you think moralistically, you talk about this, but you know, moralistically, I spoke to somebody last week about the Catholic Church. Obviously, the papal edicts around condoms in Africa that resulted in lots of, on the moral ground, that resulted in a high prevalence of HIV.
Yeah.
So when was that? That was the 80s. So when are we talking? This is great time.
Well,
it's not about what led to it, it's about what makes the damage.
well, I think that you can pick up particular things. We're making a sort of broad brush approach to this. Obviously, particular things. I mean, there was no HIV in the 50s, as far as we know, so we can't sort of compare that with the 50s. We see
the church sometimes that you're putting forward, as particularly the Catholic Church, which is hard to defend. You're putting that forward as a marker of morality and presumably in a reduction of damage. A few stabbings is nothing compared to
the church is connected to this, but when I was talking about how our society is degraded, I wasn't talking about the Catholic Church. It's just observable that it has, because single parenthood and dependence upon welfare is a bad thing whether you're a Catholic, a Protestant, an atheist or something else. It's just not good. And it's unavoidable, it seems, at the moment, but part of the cause of that is the welfare state, because what you do is in a culture of shame, and shame is got a big negative aspect, but a positive aspect is that it discourages promiscuity.
Social stigma.
When you have social stigma, you have this a negative aspect. So, for example, we have social stigma amongst the Muslim folks, and certain things can happen, like honour killings. You take it too far. So there's always pluses and minuses, but I think without talking about the Catholic Church, we surely can't think that our society in 2021 is far better in all these key respects than it was, say, after the war.
So after the war, which was a particular time, obviously 500,000 people died. There was a psychological effect of that, but there was also an impact of low unemployment for I think it's very easy to say things are going worse now. But actually, I think you're selecting things like nice crime or those types of things. But actually, what is society really actually? I know it's easy to say, oh, it's going bad moralistically, but I think it's a very selective view. If you think about the corporal punishment that happened in the 50s and 60s, where children, young children, are born to fear their authority figures with the fear of violence, of capital punishment and of corporal punishment, and they were beaten throughout those times.
And why we then do anything to prevent all this kind of
and then what propagates all of that? Yeah. And actually things have changed a bit now. And you can't really say it's got worse. I think it's easy, as you were accusing me of, selecting things, but actually we have to select things. In fact, people's quality of life and possibly their mental health is probably ultimately better. It may be more public now. Somebody said to me last week, there was, in Muslim countries there isn't there's not so much rape. That's obviously because it's almost impossible to report. You know, so basically a lot of the suffering that was in the 50s was hidden.
Again,
and you're in a marriage forever, in a violent, loveless marriage because of moralistic egos.
Don't forget, I didn't agree. I agree there's hidden suffering in the past, which is less hidden now. But I still maintain that there are negative trends which are the result of certain policies that were taken and a loss of Christianity. But if we
linked to a loss of Christianity, that was your original.
it's the conventional morality. If it's abandoned, then of course you're going to get more promiscuity amongst young folks. And it's not just the absence of Christianity, as if a vacuum was there. No, that vacuum was filled by a promotion of a specific thing called the permissive society, as it used to be called. And now simply freedom to do whatever you want sexually, which is a disaster for most females, because huge numbers of them end up on the dole or living on benefits, with no male who provided them with this child giving them any support.
And what's the disaster?
The disaster is that to be a woman with a baby in perpetual poverty, and then to be a child brought up in perpetual poverty.
Or to be a child abused by a priest.
No, not that's a separate issue.
Oh, is it?
So yeah, so that's it's just a separate issue. Like, you don't ignore any. Just because you don't talk about 20 topics at once doesn't mean you're ignoring them. So on this topic we're on, that's what I'm getting at. That removal of Christian morality and its displacement, and putting in its place this new kind of thing called permissiveness since the 1960s, expressly, deliberately. But there are many things, like you said, the welfare state is contributing. It's a combination of things. We don't have to sift out which is the biggest factor. They're all factors. The pills are a huge factor. It's a mere technological factor. That's absolutely true. The expansion of cities, because in villages people know each other's business, so you don't go around doing these things. So a whole range of factors. This is true.
It's a conservative attitude, isn't it?
Hey, God bless. See you next time.
Goodbye, thank you.
Oh, you too. God bless.
So you're suggesting sexual violence doesn't go on in rural villages, or goes on less than in urban environments?
No, Stephen.
Well, you were just saying in
Yes,
villages.
but you let me sum up. I was saying let me clarify. The idea that you can, hello, whoever they are. You can basically, if you're a lad, want to be a lad about town in a city, you can be going from last to last to last.
You never met farmers.
Getting you wild oats, right?
met
So are you wild
farmers.
oats. Listen, and we say I was postulating that in a village, people know you. And you could be, by her brother. You could be strung up by her brother. No, I've not. I'm theorising.
So. And you've never met farmers' daughters?
No,
and sons.
no.
They're as promiscuous as anyone.
But surely there's something in what I'm saying in that.
No, I don't.
In traditional village life, you're better known, and therefore so-and-so's brother, if you're kind of putting her in the club, he can kind of come after you, whereas in a town, it's much easier.
So what would you suggest then at this point?
But I didn't want to belabour that point. It was a passing
I
point.
understand the assumption you're making there, but I think it's an incorrect assumption.
Right.